Yo, what is going on, my dudes? Welcome to another RuneScape news coverage video following the mining and smithing stream. This time we're going to be talking about pickaxes and the new ores coming in with this rework. So let's just jump right into it. Alright guys, so first off I want to talk about pickaxes briefly, and then we're going to get into the ore because there's a lot of stuff regarding the ore, like the names, the nature of how they're going to behave, because some of them are going to behave slightly different, and all the new materials that's going to be coming with it. So putting that aside, let's jump into pickaxes real quick. When mining rocks are going to have a certain armor around them that protects them. It's currently known as hardness. So based on the hardness level, it's going to be harder to retrieve ore from that rock. So yeah, the more hard a rock is considered, which is based on the tier of the rock, it's going to make the progress per strike to retrieve the ore smaller, meaning it'll take longer to, like I said, get the ore. Pickaxes will have something known as a penetration value. This is going to help mitigate the rock's armor. Now, if you have the pick that is the same tier as the rock you're mining, the rock's hardness level is basically nullified and ignored. There is a base rate at which you're going to be collecting ore, and based on the hardness level of the rock versus the penetration level of the pickaxe, that will determine how far you skew from the base rate at which you collect ore, if that makes sense. And if you're using a pickaxe that's grossly under-leveled compared to the rock you're mining, it simply will not penetrate the rock and you will not receive any ore. Which will mean you will then need to upgrade your pickaxe to a higher tier if you want to keep mining at the higher tier of ores. Alright, so talking about the most iconic pickaxes in the game right now. The crystal pickaxe currently protects the value of the dragon pickaxe. With the mining and smithing rework, the dragon pickaxe will essentially be pretty useless in and of itself because there will be a tier 60 smithable version which is basically identical. The only difference is the dragon pickaxe that we currently have in-game can be upgraded to the crystal pickaxe. You cannot use the new tier 60 smithable one to upgrade to the crystal one. It needs to be the one dropped from chaos dwarfs, etc. On top of this, crystal will remain better than the smithable version of its tier. Crystal is a tier 70 pickaxe. It will be better than the smithable tier 70 pickaxe. It's also important to note that the new smithable tier 90 pickaxe will essentially be better than the crystal pickaxe, so to combat that, they will be making upgrades that you can incrementally improve your crystal pickaxe, and so long as you upgraded it enough times, it will be the best pickaxe, so it will outshine the tier 90 smithable so long as you upgrade your crystal. Alright, that's pretty much all I really want to sum up for the pickaxes. Now we're going to be talking about the ores. So if you've been living under a rock and you don't know, all of the ores currently in the game are going to be crunched down to match the levels to wield and wear those items. So mining and smithing rune is going to be crunched down to tier 50, addy tier 40, mithril tier 30, etc. so on and so forth. So as you'd imagine, with that, they're going to need to fill out levels beyond 50 with a bunch new ores, and that's exactly what they're trying to achieve. But before we go into that, we're going to talk about existing ores real quick. Coal. Coal is a level 30 mining ore, basically. It will remain as such, but it will only count as the secondary to smith bars up until mithril, since mithril is a tier 30. So you will not need coal to make adamant or runite anymore. Coal will still have some use at higher levels, which they have not worked out yet, but beyond level 30 will not be necessary in order to smith and create materials. New secondary ore is going to be added for these higher tiers in replace of not having coal. The first new one is known as Luminite ore. This is going to act as the secondary for adamant and rune. Not really much to go over, that's pretty standard. There's going to be this new Luminite ore scatter out the game world. You'll need it for tier 40 and tier 50. Next up, we're going to go into the tier 60 ore, dracolith. Now, dracolith ore is the same metal used to make dragon items. However, the dragonkin are much better smiths as the player base, so we might end up not making dragon items themselves, instead make the inferior dracolith version. There's two ways they might end up going about this, they're not sure. First one being, they might actually just let us smith regular dragon items as is. Or they might create, like I said, the new tier 60 items, pretty much identical to dragon, but not quite, and they'll be called dracolith. There's only one real major problem with allowing players to smith tier 60 regular dragon items that we have in the game, is that it can break the value of current high value dragon items such as dragon limbs. So they're not sure how they're going to go about that, and which path they're going to take has not been decided yet, so keep that in mind. It's also a key point that dracolith will not need the dragon forge to be smithed. You can smith it on anything like you would any other ore. Most of the content, if not all the content being shown, will not need any type of quest requirements or anything to access, so keep that in mind going forward. Next up, we have the tier 70 Necrite ore. The secondary ingredient for this is phasmatite ore, which is a reference to Port Phasmatis. It's unclear what the secondary ore for the previous tier 60 dracolith is because they did not mention it, but it may be the case that phasmite will also be used for dracolith. I don't know, I'm just speculating because they did not let us know about that. There's nothing going to be very particularly special about the tier 70 Necrite. It's just a standard tier 70 ore and will behave as such. They may decide to add special mechanics with it, but that's not going to be, or is not, in this current build that you're seeing right here. Moving on to the tier 80, we have Bane ore. Now, we've already seen this in the game. It's going to be pretty much similar to the way it behaves currently in the game, so I'm sure you can understand how it's going to behave. The secondary for Bane ore is going to be dark Animica ore. This is essentially corrupted crystallized divine energy that you're going to find throughout scattered the world. So anyways, like I said, it's going to behave like Bane ore we already have in-game. It will have an increased affinity to certain types of monsters. Right now, there's very few mobs that you can tune your Bane ore to, but they will be increasing that to many more types of monsters. Bane items will behave as tier 60 items against most monsters, but will act as tier 80 if used against their intended target. Now, the reason why I think they did this, and this is my personal, speculation, is to help preserve the already tier 80 items we have in game that you get from like monster drops, etc. So think of like your Nex armors, your God Wars 2 armors, and even like your chaotics from Dungeoneering, which are tier 80s for all intents and purposes, no matter where you use them. So I think that's their attempt to protect that, while also having niche uses for the Bane ore. I can still see it getting used for certain Slayer tasks. Maybe you want that boosted affinity against certain monsters, and based on whatever monsters it may allow you to tune it to, may provide a very nice, niche use. And, I think it was a neat way that they chose to go about doing that. Interesting to see how it's going to pan out in the future. Anyways, the final ore we're going to talk about, the tier 90, currently in this game is called Colossite. Now, Colossite was originally going to be what it is. It was the same ore made from the Maul of Omens that you used to defeat Virago in the Virago fight. A bit of backstory. Dwarves, being the excellent smiths that they are, found the Colossite ore and simply added a hilt to it to turn it into the Maul because it was such a powerful ore in and of itself. It did not need any type of refining and being smithed into some other metal. It was fine by itself. It's like this iconic, super powerful ore. They have decided to do a slight shift in that, and we'll talk about it shortly. But it will not be called Colossite, and they may introduce Colossite if they ever go beyond 99 in the future, but that's just pure speculation at this point, and is not anything to be concerned about with the mining and smithing rework coming up. So the tier 90 ore is actually going to have 2 secondaries instead of 1, just to, switch it up and be a little different. It's going to have living rock ore as well as light animica ore. So those 3 ores are going to be needed to create the bars and smith the items that you can with those bars. So I said they're not going to opt to have it called Colossite ore because they are instead going to go with elder runite. Basically, the reason why they're choosing to call it Elder Runite is currently tier 99, you can smith regular rune ore. It's been iconic for a very long time, and I guess it's paying homage to the original, rune ore. When it first came out, it was the highest available armor in the game and was prestigious if you had rune way back in the day in Classic. So they're opting to call it, instead of Colossite, Elder Runite. I think it's a pretty neat homage, and I'm on board with it. It's alright. But yeah, as far as we know, nothing particularly special about the tier 90 ore, bars, armor, etc. They didn't really go into much detail about it. So there you have it. That is all the ores and secondaries, as well as pickaxe information from the latest live stream about the mining and smithing rework. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed yet and you want to stay up to date on all things RuneScape related, then hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. I am out. Peace.